There is a specific kind of panic that happens in the middle of a sentence. It's the moment you realize the road has ended. You've asked about their job. You've asked about the weather. You've even asked how their weekend was. And now you're staring into the void. Most people call this an awkward silence. I call it the social tax. It's the price you pay for being a passenger in your own conversations. You're waiting for them to give you something interesting, and they are waiting for you. You're both starving at a table where neither of you brought any food. Why does this happen? Because we've been conditioned to treat social interaction like a job interview. We think the goal is to exchange data, name, age, occupation, location, but data is boring. Data doesn't create a connection, it creates a spreadsheet. When you ask someone, "So, what do you do for a living?" you aren't starting a conversation. You're assigning them a task. You're forcing them to pull a pre-recorded script out of their brain and play it for the 1,000th time. And while they are playing that script, their soul is checking out. They aren't with you. They are just repeating themselves. There's a psychological phenomenon called the liking gap. Studies show that after most people leave a conversation, they underestimate how much the other person liked them. We spend so much mental energy worrying about running out of things to say that we stop actually hearing what the other person is saying. We are so busy rehearsing our next line that we miss the hooks they are dropping in real time. This is the outlier's first secret. You don't run out of things to say because you're uninteresting. You run out of things to say because you're overperforming. You're trying to be the source of the light, instead of being the mirror that reflects it. The crowd thinks they need to be a content creator in every conversation. They think they need to have a bottomless bag of stories, jokes, and facts. But the outlier knows better. The outlier knows that the world is already shouting its secrets at you. You just have to learn how to catch them. Let's talk about the mechanical art of the hook. Every sentence someone speaks is like a piece of messy charcoal thread. Most people just see the thread. The outlier looks for the luminescence. In every boring answer, "I'm just tired, work was okay, I went to the gym," there is a fringe. A fringe is a word or a detail that didn't need to be there. If I ask you how your day was and you say, "It was fine, just a bit long because my boss is obsessed with spreadsheets," the data is that your day was long. But the hook is the obsession. The crowd asks, "Why was it long?" The outlier asks, "What kind of person gets obsessed with a spreadsheet?" See the difference? One is a follow-up on a fact. The other is a deep dive into a personality. To never run out of things to say, you must practice 3-layer extraction. Layer 1 is the event. What happened? The spreadsheets. Layer 2 is the emotion. How did it feel? Frustrating, boring, intense. Layer 3 is the identity. What does this say about the person involved? The boss is a control freak, or the speaker values efficiency. If you only talk about layer 1, you will run out of fuel in 3 minutes. If you jump to layer 3, you create a connection that lasts 3 hours. You aren't making conversation. You are performing a psychological autopsy in real time. You are looking for the why behind the what. Think of these hooks as breadcrumbs. People drop them because, subconsciously, they want to be found. They want someone to notice the weird detail they mentioned. When you bite on a hook that isn't the obvious one, you signal to their brain that you are a high-value observer. You aren't just another gray stickman repeating the same social script. You are an outlier who actually hears them. This triggers a release of dopamine in their brain. Suddenly, they start doing the work for you. They start feeding you more hooks because it feels good to be understood. This is the paradox of the point of being. The more you focus on their words, the more interesting you become in their eyes. Silence isn't your enemy anymore. It's the space where you wait for the next golden thread to appear. Most people communicate with a permanent question mark hanging over their heads. What do you do for fun? Where are you from? Is that your car? The problem with questions is that they are demands. You are asking the other person to do the labor of explaining themselves. But the outlier knows a secret. People would much rather be noticed than interviewed. Instead of asking, start stating. Instead of "Are you an artist?" try "You look like someone who spends a lot of time in their own head." Instead of "Do you like your job?" try "I get the feeling you're the person everyone goes to when things actually need to get done." This is the part that scares people. What if I'm wrong? Here is the psychological truth. Being wrong is better than being boring. If you tell someone, you seem like a very spontaneous person, and they are actually the most organized person in the world, they won't be offended. They will be excited to correct you. Actually no. I have to plan everything weeks in advance. Boom, now they are explaining their true identity to you with energy. You didn't have to pry it out of them with boring questions. You poked their ego, and their ego gave you the data for free. When you make a statement of observation, you are giving them a gift. You are saying, I have been paying enough attention to you to form an opinion. In a world where everyone is staring at their phones, that kind of attention is a superpower. It's the difference between being a social consumer, someone who waits for entertainment, and a social architect, someone who builds the environment. You are creating a safe harbor where the other person feels like the most interesting version of themselves. And when people feel interesting around you, they never want the conversation to end. This is how you never run out of things to say. Because you aren't saying anything about yourself, you are narrating the world around you. Sometimes, despite all your hooks and observations, you meet a charcoal wall. Someone who gives you nothing. No fringes, no breadcrumbs, just one-word answers. This is where most people drown in the silence. But the Outlier has an archive. The archive isn't a list of cool stories you memorize to impress people. It's a curated collection of perspectives. Most people live through their day without actually seeing it. They eat, they work, they scroll, they sleep. But you practice the rule of one. Every single day you find one thing, just one, that felt off, beautiful, or strangely human. Maybe it was the way a stranger looked at their phone with such intense sadness. Maybe it was a bird that landed on a pile of trash like it was a throne. Maybe it was just the realization that everyone in the grocery store is the main character of their own tragedy. When the conversation dies, you don't reach for a topic. You reach for a moment. I saw something today that I can't stop thinking about. This isn't talking about yourself. This is sharing a fragment of being. When you share a fragment, you give the other person permission to do the same. You aren't entertaining them, you are inviting them into your world. The ultimate secret to never running out of things to say is realizing that you are enough. You don't need to be a performer. You don't need to be charismatic in the way the crowd defines it. The most interesting person in the room is usually the one who is the most present. The one who isn't trying to win the conversation, but is simply observing the why behind it all. When you stop fearing the silence becomes your greatest tool. It gives you the space to breathe, to look at the other person, and to find the next golden thread. You will never run out of things to say because the world will never run out of things to show you. If you're tired of the noise, and you're ready to build a mind that doesn't panic in the quiet, then you're in the right place. Stay an outlier. Find the point.